Let's get it. Let's get it. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. It is Thursday, August the 19th, and this is Wake Up with Ray G, presented by Bets TV. We are excited to talk to you today on this Thursday, almost through the week. We got one more day, people. One more day. Hang in there. Friday's fast approaching. The weekend is coming up. But Jordan, how are you doing this morning, my friend?
I am great, man. Happy to be here. There's a lot of things we have to talk about today. It can be a loaded show, but I appreciate you, taking the time to check in with me. And I'm happy. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel validated a little bit. People are all about that validation. So I appreciate you. But let's get into this show. So let's start with the morning run.
Wake up! This is the morning run.
All right, so the big sort of, I don't want to say news, but a very interesting piece that dropped yesterday that seems to be sweeping YouTube, social media, big media sports lines, headlines by storm, is this Kevin Durant, Draymond Green interview about their time in Golden State. And I was, as soon as I saw it pop up, I was like, I got to check this out. And it's really interesting, right? Because for a long time, we just wanted athletes, or I think media wanted athletes to just essentially shut up and play ball, right? Like politically correct answers, just even kill. There were some difficulties and we had some trouble and we just had to go our separate ways. But of late, recently, we're seeing more and more athletes really just speak up publicly about, whatever it is that they're feeling. And this interview right here in particular was very just raw, very, candid, authentic, direct, pointed. There was nothing politically correct, nothing company man about this interview. And I found it fascinating, and I'm interested to see what's going to happen with Draymond Green, right? Because we know he's still with the Golden State Warriors. Kevin Durant's with the Brooklyn Nets right now. So whatever he says about the Golden State Warriors franchise, it really doesn't matter. I mean, he was there for 3 years. He won 2 titles. Probably would have been a third had he not sacrificed his Achilles tendon to try to help that team out. But they were very pointed, calling out the, Bob Myers and Steve Kerr by name. Real raw conversation. They effed this thing up. We probably could have been together and continue to win games if it had not been for them. So I'm interested to see, did you get a chance to check that out? Do you have any thoughts on just the open, raw, candid nature of this conversation? And the good thing is, it was only 25 minutes. So it wasn't like it took up a ton of time to sit there and watch this 18-part documentary. It was like, let's get in, get straight to the point. But I want to know your thoughts on if you had a chance to check that out and what did you think about the interview?
I love how you took a mini shot at me there, because pre-show we talked about how I didn't watch the whole thing. It's so short. How could you not watch it all? But you had to point that out. I only watched about 10 minutes and I got caught up doing some other things. But I do want to point out to people who don't know, Draymond was actually interviewed on KD's podcast, I think like 2 or 3 months ago. And so you would probably be able to speak more on this and a few other people, whether or not they dove into the whole thing, because I didn't get through the entire interview on Draymond's, show with Bleacher Report, all that stuff. But I think it is interesting to see athletes have this platform. Like, we're seeing this more and more every day, and it's really awesome because, like you said, so many people were just taught to just shut up and just perform, and that's it. You get paid well. There's no reason to rock the boat or anything. But these guys now, they're paid so much money. They're given this platform, all this freedom to do pretty much whatever they want. And I could see a world for sure where Draymond got a lot more out of KD than KD got out of Draymond on that interview. As a hour-and-a-half podcast. They were talking about the nuances of basketball, all these different things. But Draymond kind of dodged the question a little bit.
Yeah,
he didn't.
It. Yeah, this wasn't it. And I think the reason why this was a little more authentic and candid, to be honest with you, is they just came off of winning the Olympic gold, right? This was pre-Olympic gold, so they were back on a team together, working with each other in a foreign country together. That's all they had. So I do think part of that helped mend those fences. But, it was two men, sitting down, shooting the shit and just keeping it real as to what happened. And, Draymond asked him flat out, like, did the argument between us where there were some choice words being called, did that help? Was that one of the catalysts that pushed you out of Golden State? And KD pretty much is like, it wasn't just the argument, it was how it was handled. And Very, very eye-opening, enlightening, entertaining piece of content. I'd suggest people check it out. And it's very interesting, when we're watching these players make these decisions, whether it's NFL free agency, NBA free agency. Like, we like to sit back and think that there are all these suitors and there's all this drama, where in reality, these cats probably already know where they want to go. And KD pretty much said it. He said, I knew I wanted to go to Golden State. I just had to go through the process. But my mind was made up. I didn't give a you-know-what. I was going to be there. And he did his thing, and they won 2 rings. And again, probably should have won a third. But just check that out. Very riveting piece of content. I just like real talk. Like, I'm the type of cat, like, I just want to just say what you need to say. Like, I've always been that way in this space. I'm going to continue to be that way. Like, I don't care what people think. And that's the beauty of what we do and why we are where we are right now, because it's real, it's authentic, and it's candid. But this is a betting show, and we are not professional bettors. That's not what we do. That's not what we do. But we must give credit where credit is due, because FTN's very own Chris Meany. Make sure you're checking out the Mean Streets with Chris Meany. He's on the Ray GQ YouTube channel, FTN Fantasy YouTube channel. He's got his own show. He's on TV. You see him all over Twitter. This man on May 25th, 2021, placed a bet that Shohei Ohtani was going to win AL MVP. And at the time that Chris placed this bet, it was plus 5,000. So for those of you who don't know, that's 50 to 1 odds. He put a whole unit on that bet, an entire unit. And, everyone's unit is different. Maybe it's $100, maybe it's $1,000, $50. I went on today to see, man, can I get a little bit of that action? It's late. Let me just see. Right now, he's minus 1,000 to win AL MVP. Chris Meany is the damn GOAT. I mean, that is an incredible, because that's his award. I mean, he hit his 40th home run last night, and he pitched, right, Jay? Like, not only did he hit another home run, and he was lights out in that matchup, in that game.
Yeah, he pitched. I believe he threw only 90 pitches, and a lot of people said he could have definitely went the complete game. He threw 8 scoreless. He allowed 1 home run. He struck out 8 and didn't walk a single batter on only 90 pitches while hitting his 40th home run. So you think about, just to do all those things in one game is just beyond phenomenal. And crazy. To think that a lot of analysts and people thought he could go the full 9, would have been great to see him get the full complete game shutout, plus hitting his 40th home run, minus 1,000. Shohei's the MVP. Like, it's people have been talking about it for months now because of how well he's played, but it's a wrap now. Like, it was him and Vlad for a while, but with how great he's playing, I believe he's 8-1 on the year for his win-loss record, hitting 40 bombs and really being the only thing the Angels have outside of Mike Trout. It's a wrap. It's Shohei Ohtani. He's the MVP.
How do you get that good and that skilled to, like, I'm trying to think of an equivalent, right? Like, would that be the equivalent? Would it be like, take Charles Woodson or Deion Sanders, right? We know they're Hall of Fame shutdown cornerbacks, but would the equivalent be like them being shutdown Hall of Fame cornerbacks and also Pro Bowl caliber wide receivers? Like, would that? I know I'm trying to make a comparison. It's kind of apples to oranges, but I'm just trying to understand the skill level to be able to be such a good pitcher in just a dominant batter. Like, to me, I don't understand, all the dynamics. You hear these things in baseball about being a 5-tool player. I'm just trying to appreciate the greatness, and I don't want to underappreciate or not really, like, grasp what we're witnessing from Ohtani this season. Like, how is that a fair sort of comparison? Would it be like Deion and Charles Woodson or Jalen Ramsey in today's game, not only being a shutdown corner, but also playing on the offensive side of the ball and thriving? Would that sort of be a fair comparison to what Ohtani's accomplishing right now in Major League Baseball?
I think it's not even quite there. So the reason why I say no is because football skill sets do translate. You can be an all-pro cornerback and an all-pro wide receiver because really it comes down to defending and catching the ball, right? If you're athletic, that makes up for some of it. But it's honestly kind of like playing golf and being like a scratch golfer from both sides, like literally hitting it left-handed and right-handed. Because pitching and hitting are completely different skill sets. One is a batter's eye, one's his ability to swing. The other one is be able to finesse pitches. So that's where you talk about guys who spend their entire lives refining this art. Yes, refining the art of being an excellent route runner, refining the art of being an excellent cornerback. But it's not the same when you're swinging an object, or throwing a ball to other people who are trained to swing an object for a living, making millions of dollars. There really isn't a direct comparison to it. And that's why people, they go back all the way to Babe Ruth, one of the earliest players who did both and was extremely dominant at both. But a lot of people say that even Babe Ruth was never this good. Like he just wasn't. Wow. Like he didn't have this kind of pop. And Ohtani doing it in this era is insane because hitters are only getting better. Pitchers are only getting better. So to be able to do both, and I believe he's only 26 years old, like he could be doing this for the next 7-8 years for all we know. And he may not have even hit his peak, but he's already hitting 40 home runs. He has under a 3 ERA. He's 8-1 on the year. Like, where is this guy's ceiling? Is it a Cy Young, an MVP, and an AL, and a Hank Aaron award for the most home runs? Like, his ceiling is, we have no idea. We've never seen it before.
Does he lead the bigs and homers just off the top? If you don't know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I believe he's still ahead of Vlad in home runs.
And I guess you make a really good point. I mean, in football, if you were a good corner, some of the skills are the same. Running fast, hands, it's a little different, right? Beating press versus jamming. But being a pitcher and being a hitter do seem pretty different.
And he's very fast too. Like you know what I mean? Like it's everything, like everything you could possibly think of. It's not, hitting has nothing to do with athleticism. You see these big lumbering guys who can hit, or they're super small and skinny, but they can still hit. It's strength if you want to go as far as strength. But I wouldn't say it's athleticism. It's a lot of it is technique. It's your batter's eye. It's the way you approach at the plate. It's taught and it's reps, right? Like anything. But it's very different than the raw athletic ability you can have as a cornerback or as a wide receiver that can take you pretty far. But again, at the highest level, you have to have that mastercraft level ability.
Well, big thing is, shout out to Chris Meaney, plus 5,000, getting that line. It's going to be a nice payday for Meaney. That's money just waiting to be cashed out. So credit where credit is due. Shout out Chris. Make sure y'all checking him out because clearly he knows what the hell he's doing. But we got preseason action, baby. Pats Eagles tonight. Patriots are facing off against Philadelphia. So this is going to be another these are good preseason matchups, man. I know it's preseason. I don't give a shit. Like, football is back. And this is the second preseason game. And it's going to be interesting to see if NFL teams treat this as the third preseason game where starters really play, right? Like where they're in the game for entire first quarter, maybe the entire first half. I don't think we'll see any starters play the entire first half, but you might see a lot of those backup rotational players play majority of the second half, which is going to be good. So from the New England side of the ball, Cam Newton, man, and I don't know. Listen, I'm just delivering the information, right? Hold on. Take the graphic off real quick, Jay, because I gotta illustrate what happened. So for those of you who don't know, on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, I guess it was a beat reporter out of New England, somebody that covers the team. I don't know what it is, but they were talking about Cam Newton versus Mac Jones. Everybody's talking about this in this quarterback one battle, which I still think it's probably going to be Cam Newton at this point. I would love to see Cam somewhere else. Just let him go. Let Mac do it. Let him figure out what you have in Mac. But anyway, whoever this guy was like, all right, this is how the New England offense looks. When Mac Jones is back there at quarterback, it's set, hut, get the ball, read, throw. Hut, get the ball, read, throw. He said when Cam Newton is back there, it's read, and then just try to throw it. Like, basically saying that what he's seeing from Cam and Mac is just the processing of information on the field just being night and day. And a lot of people were asking me, Ray, what the hell did Mac Jones do that was so special in week one? His stat line, 80-something passing yards, a low average depth of target. Here's the thing. This is where the box score lies, because when you watch how quickly he was delivering the ball, and I talked to people who played Division I quarterback, who played in the NFL, and they're like, dude, it's processing, man. Like on the fifth step drop, once your back foot hits the turf, you need to be firing that ball. So I really want to see Cam get, a quarter of work, because dynamic Cam, when he's running and throwing the ball deep and doing his thing, it's like no other. I mean, he's super Cam. That's why he got that name. I think, pulling him after he's not going to get in rhythm in 2 drives. So I'm interested to see how much time Cam Newton gets, see if Nelson Aguilar is playing. I don't know if he's going to play. And then, of course, Mac Jones. You can throw the graphic back up, Jay. Of course, Mac Jones, checking him out, the rookie. We want to see how they perform. But this game, New England is currently favored by 1.5, over under 38.5. This is the week, and we kind of talked about this. This is the week that if I was going to take the over, it would probably be this week. Everybody was cashing out last week with the unders because we knew the starters weren't going to play, much, if at all. And that came to fruition. So damn near every game that you can pick probably hit the under, except the damn game that I put money on, the Steelers-Eagles, that went over. But this is the week where I do think that we see a lot of these teams probably hit the over. And I'm probably going to put a little action on this game because I do think this game is going to go over. From the Patriots side of the ball, we talked a little Cam Newton. We talked a little bit of Mac Jones. But it's Jalen Hurts as well. And he's another one of these polarizing players where a lot of people are trying to figure out what he is. I think Philadelphia wants to figure out what they have in Jalen Hurts. But hopefully we see him play into the first and second quarter, and the wide receiver, the successes that these wide receivers are having in practice, hopefully they carry over and translate to the game. So we want to see Quez Watkins go deep. We want to see Jalen Reagor get those catches. How Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, and I think it's really Dallas Goedert taking over that role at tight end. Is Miles Sanders going to play a little bit? What about Boston Scott versus Kenny Gainwell? And then, of course, the first-round pick, Devontae Smith. I know he's back. He's returned to practice. But are they going to push Smitty to get out there and play? He was back on a limited basis this week. I'm sure they want to get him some preseason work. As good as he's looked, he's still a rookie. He still needs to adjust to the NFL game. And outside of going up against Darius Slay for a few weeks, he has not had a lot of time and experience with that. Now, there doesn't seem to be any concern inside of Philadelphia's locker room about him being ready to play, about him facing NFL cornerbacks and performing. But listen, you still need to get on the field and get some real practice reps where people are trying to jam your ass up at the line of scrimmage, blow you up across the middle, fighting you down the field, tackling you to the ground. I just don't know. I haven't seen anything on if Devontae Smith was going to play this game or not. So, just looking at this game, I'm excited for this one. I think this is going to be a fun game. We all need to be tapped in. 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Damn, man, my kids won't even be in bed at that point in time. But we'll have the game on, and we'll definitely review that game on Friday. Anything that you have for this game tonight, Jay?
So I'm just going to let the people know if you're planning on betting on this game, right? There was a couple line movements. So when I originally made this graphic, it was on Monday. I was making the templates for the show for the week. And so it turned out that, and I think I actually mentioned this to you, Ray. I was kind of surprised that the Patriots were favored by 2 points. That line has now moved down to 1.5. And like we talked about on, I believe it was yesterday's show about the overs, or 2 days ago about the overs, it's pushed towards the over by about 0.5 point. Right now it's 38 on most books, but I still think I would take the over on 38.5. You're really just getting the push out of there. And so for me, and like we talked about it even after the first week, the Eagles looked really good, whether it's just the backups look good or whatever it was. I understand the Patriots are a good team, but I don't think they're a deep team. And so if the Eagles look good last week with Joe Flacco coming in the second quarter, maybe even third quarter, they're probably going to look good again. Like, I just don't see a scenario where the Eagles necessarily lose this game. So if it was me and I was betting, it's plus 100 to take the Eagles. I think I would take the Eagles here, and I'd probably even parlay it with the over, and you'd probably get some plus 300 odds or so, maybe plus 280. I didn't actually do the calculation in my head, but I think that would be a pretty good bet. And like you talked about, the Eagles went over last week because they kind of surprised, because they look good. People expected the Steelers to be the ones who were beating down on the Eagles. Eagles look good. We're going to see Reagor, and even Hurts had some quotes. Smitty's going to be Smitty. He's not worried about him. They played together in college. They have the chemistry. So whether or not he plays, I'm not sure. To your point about Nelson Aguilar, he connected with Mac Jones on a sweet pass that I saw on Twitter in practice. I still don't know if he's going to play because I know that he was working back from an injury. But he was in the works. He was in some 7-on-7, I believe in some 11-on-11. So we may see him. I'd be excited to see him now in that Pats offense. And another interesting note for kind of the fantasy gamers and other people out there, they had N'Keal Harry kind of working in a move tight end role because they don't have the requisite tight ends to run a full 12 personnel. So we may see him run some kind of like inline wide receiver duties or just like some really tight slot duties. Obviously 6'4", I believe he's almost 220, 215. So that could be an interesting point of emphasis too, to kind of see how he's using this offense. We know that Hunter Henry's hurt. We know Jonnu Smith has been kind of banged up with injuries. So how do they kind of approach this game knowing that they don't really have a whole set of tight ends to kind of complete the whole game? And will they deploy Harry in kind of like a move tight end role? I thought that was interesting. Those were notes actually from Mike Reese, the Patriots beat reporter for ESPN. So I don't know if that was the guy that was on McAfee's show. Probably not.
Nah, it wasn't
probably
Reese.
not. but he is very good. If you ever need Patriot stuff, Reese is the guy to go to for sure.
Yeah, he's the dude. So I'm looking right now on our parlay calculator. If you take Philly plus 1.5, I mean it's literally the same line. It's minus 110 for New England or Philly on the spread. And if you do the over-under and you take the over, it's minus 105. So you're still not even getting plus odds.
No, the over and the money line. The over on like the money line, like just the
Eagles
money line outright,
and
okay. The over, yeah.
Okay,
so if you plus
100
plus, you're probably 115.
Yeah, yep, that's what it is. You're spot on. I was gonna say, well, that's actually a good. I mean, now you got me thinking. Yeah, Philly plus 105. Yeah, let me see what that pays.
It's not bad. It's a pretty good line, man. It's a pretty good line. I don't know why Philly's not favored. Like I really don't get it. They did look really good last week, even though it's preseason. You know, if Miles Sanders plays, you know, the only thing, and we didn't even mention him. I don't know how we didn't mention him. Is Ramondre Stevenson? What if he goes off for another $130 and 2 touchdowns, man? That's the only guy I'm worried about. You know, if you're in DFS, I didn't look at Derek Brown's update yet, and I don't want to leak everything about it. But I was looking at the FTN optimizer. The FTN optimizer is out, and I just ran it as is. Ramondre Stevenson locked in as the showdown captain on every single lineup.
Really?
Oh,
really?
Yeah. They love Ramondre Stevenson.
You keep talking about Philly, but I think if the starters and backups are going to play a significant amount of time, the question is, do you have more faith in Joe Flacco or Mac Jones? Because that's probably
the matchup.
That's the matchup. Because I can see a world in which Cam gets the whole first half, and then they just play Mac the entire second half. And if they play Mac the entire second half, Mac versus, Mac, N'Keal Harry, that other guy that he was thrown to, number 17, Ramondre Stevenson, versus Kenneth Gainwell, the backup Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, Joe Flacco, and we might see Rager and Quez Watkins play deep into the game, JJ Arcega-Whiteside. So I don't know, man. I like what I'm looking at as far as how much I would bet on it, but I don't know about this one, man. I kind of like New England because of Mac, because of Ramondre Stevenson. Dude, did you see a report that N'Keal Harry was working in this like H-back tight end role? Did you see that? And I've always said, like jokingly, like if N'Keal Harry wants to beast, he should just move the tight end. I mean, I think, how big is N'Keal Harry? I want to say he's like 6'3", 6'4".
Did you not listen to what I was saying? I was just saying that. I was just saying how Reese was putting out these reports. I was reading his notes from, I think, 2 days ago. He was saying that because they don't have Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, he's playing a move like H-back tight end role. He might run like inline. He might be inline standing up instead of,
like you literally just said that? You just said that?
I just said that. I was just talking about that because Reese put it out. That's why I was talking about him. It was his practice notes from, I think, 2 days ago.
Let me tell you something, dude. This is 2 days in a row. Like, I'm letting you, like, you've tried to call me out on the show twice. Like, first time, shame on me. Second time, shame on you. There ain't gonna be a third.
The listeners have my back. They have my back. They heard me.
There's not gonna be a third. I don't like the tone in which you're addressing me. So let's just dial it back. Let's get back into the show and just vibe with me. N'Keal Harry.
Oh, sorry. Where'd you go?
N'Keal Harry, tight end. I think it'd be good for him. So, anyways, man, we got some other stuff to get to. We got to go to the NFC South. CMC, Kyle Pitts. Let's beat the rush, man.
Wake up! This is Beat the Rush.
Get out of the way!
All right, Atlanta Falcons futures, ATL. They got a new coach in town, Arthur Smith. Came from Tennessee Titans, so he's running the squad. They had the number 4 pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. They go with all-world tight end Kyle Pitts out of Florida. We talking about preseason Matty Ice. So last year, the Falcons were 4-12. Stank! Make the playoffs. Their odds to make the playoffs, plus 235. Win the division, plus 900. Over, under, win total, 7.5. Goodness. Magic Sports Guide at Kevin Adams has them projected to be 6-11. If you take the over, it's minus 130. And if you take the under, it's plus 125. And I think that is the right move to make. Atlanta is not winning 8 games this season. I don't care how good Kyle Pitts is. They had one of the worst defenses in like NFL history in recent memory last season. And I really don't know what they've done to upgrade that position, because with the first pick, they took a tight end. Keanu Neal is no longer there. They do have Grady Jarrett, who's one of the better defensive tackles in the NFL. And a young cornerback in A.J. Terrell that I think is going to be pretty damn good. There's actually a highlight running around right now of Jalen Waddle versus Terrell, and people are like, look at Waddle, and it was actually like excellent coverage by Terrell. He just caught the damn ball. But I don't like any of these. I mean, to make the playoffs, it ain't happening. They've got to get through Tampa Bay in that division. That's not happening. Who else is in the division? New Orleans. Carolina, yeah, they're not going to win the division, so don't put any money on Atlanta. Sorry, Falcons fans, but you probably already know that's the case. Make the playoffs. Don't think that's happening in the NFC either, because they'd need to be pretty damn good in the division to even potentially get a wild card spot. Not happening. Over, under, win totals, 8. 8 wins for the Falcons. I don't know what their schedule looks like, but that just seems like it's probably, like, I don't even know why it's set there. Not feeling that. I'm going to pull up the Falcons schedule right now. So the Atlanta schedule, Tennessee, that's probably that's preseason. So week 1, Philly. Philly should win that. Tampa Bay in week 2, that's an L. They may beat New York, the Giants. They got Washington, Jets, the Dolphins, and then, of course, divisional games with the Panthers, Saints, the Cowboys, Patriots, Jaguars, again with Tampa Bay, Carolina, San Francisco, Detroit, Buffalo, and New Orleans. Just looking at this right now, just rough off the top of my head, I'd pencil them in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll give them a divisional game. 5, we'll give them 2 divisional games. 6 wins, and that's where Kevin has them in his sports guide, 6-11. So I would be betting the under on Atlanta as far as their overall team. You know, I think they are going to regret big time. As good as I think Kyle Pitts is, as much as I like Kyle Pitts, I think they are going to regret taking the hometown kid, Justin Fields. I get, you know, I think the entire Kyle Pitts selection felt like it was predicated on if they were going to keep Julio Jones, right? If Julio Jones was going to be there and Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts, and they just have this high-flying offense, and they were just going all in on offense to win this season, but they traded Julio. Like, he's not there. So it's just Ridley and Pitts. You know, the running back is Mike Davis. We'll probably take a look at that, but I think they are going to regret passing on Justin Fields, who's from Georgia. I think that will come back to haunt them for a very long time. So as far as the Falcons team, I can't see it, man. Where are you at with Atlanta?
Yeah, bro, I'm kind of with you, honestly. They brought in Arthur Smith, who obviously great offensive mind out of Tennessee, but again, offensive mind, not a defensive mind. So how is that defense going to get any better? They already had a great offense. They already had a decent run game. It'll probably get a little bit better with Arthur Smith. Obviously, the pass game, elite. They drafted Hall of Fame. He's already actually in the Hall of Fame, depending on who you ask, Kyle Pitts. So we'll see, man. Like, they got to figure out that wide receiver 2 spot. Kyle Pitts can't just soak up 130 targets and be productive. Now, I'm not going to say 100% he can't because he is good. But I'm not going to say that he can either because he's still a rookie. Tight end is kind of a weird spot for rookies. They don't always have great first years. He may be really good. He may have the best tight end season of all time, and he still may not hit his props that people have for him, expectations people have for him. So I'm kind of lukewarm on the Falcons. I'm with you on the under. I don't see a scenario where they really get a whole lot of wins. I think they'd have to win 4 games in division to even hit that over. So how are they going to beat the Panthers and Saints both 2 times? Like, I just don't think that's going to happen. It's just probably unrealistic for Falcons fans. Yeah. But you never know, man. You never know. And I'm with you, though. I don't think they have even a shot at all.
Let's start with the quarterback. Let's take a look at Matt Ryan and some of his futures. So over under 4,450 and a half passing yards for the season. We have him projected at 4,382. So the under there, and you get minus 111 odds on Matt Ryan. Can Matt Ryan bounce back? I think the answer to that question is yes, he can. But will he?
No.
You know, this is hard for me because if he's going to go over, I think if you're bullish on Matt Ryan going over 4,400 yards, right? 4,450, 4,451, then you should be all in on Kyle Pitts at 1,000 yards, all in on Calvin Ridley, 1,400 yards. And then whether it's Russell Gage, a combination of Russell Gage, Olamide Zaccheaus, Frank Darby, whoever the hell else is catching passes, you got to be pretty bullish on this entire offense just going nuclear. So for me, Matty Ice has thrown for a lot before, but not having Julio Jones there, I think there's going to be some growing pains for Calvin Ridley because say what you want about Julio, say what you want about his age, say what you want about him limping off the field in games. He demanded the top corner. The shade coverage from the safety was always directed at Julio Jones, which gave Calvin Ridley, very, very talented wide receiver. He's an awesome wide receiver, but that helped Calvin Ridley. That left him with one-on-one coverage. He's facing the number 2 team's corner, the other team's number 2 corner, and that's not going to happen this year. He is getting primary coverage, and again, we're seeing him cook Xavier Howard in practices right now, but he's got Xavier Howard he's got to deal with. The Cleveland Browns, between Ward, Greedy Williams, that defense is insane. Philadelphia with Darius Slay, Tampa Bay with, they've got, what's his name? Antoine Winfield Jr. in the secondary and as a safety, Davis at cornerback. The Giants, I don't really know who their top corner is. I think it's James Bradbury, who's very good. The football team, the Jets, they got the Dolphins again, Marshawn Lattimore twice. It's just going to be different. It's going to be interesting to see how Ridley handles that. But for me, if you're asking me right now, I would be taking the under on Matt Ryan's season passing yards.
Okay, so let's get into Calvin Ridley because you were being a little bit disrespectful. I just need to clarify this for a second. A little bit.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
So Calvin Ridley over under 1,350 yards. Sounds like a lot, and I forget what exactly he hit last year. He was really close to this last year, or he went over it by a little bit, right around there. But the thing to remember with Calvin Ridley is that he played, I believe, half a season last year with Julio Jones off the field. So to say that he didn't dominate, he did. He still had a great season, right? Whether Julio Jones was on the field or off the field, he's basically going almost 100 yards a game. There was one game where, for some reason, he didn't catch a single pass. He didn't get any yards. The rest of the season, dude was lights out. He was on fire. So it's interesting for you to say that, he's going to be the top guy. And I get it. It's different full season. We talked about Juju having his moment, and then he stank. But Calvin Ridley's different. But the thing I want to say about Matt Ryan, and with that number, that is just insanely high, you could probably add up every single player prop for the entire team. And I still don't know if you get to that 1,450 number.
Yeah.
Across all the book. So to me, it just seems way too high unless again, that they're that bad and they are passing at an insane clip. But Ridley is a guy who, and the reason why I chose this prop as well, for him to lead the league in receiving yards, he's going to be the guy. He's a guy who could see 10 targets a week for 17 straight weeks. He could go 160, 170 targets. You can talk about Marshawn Lattimore. He cooks the Saints. You look it up for his whole career, He absolutely demolishes Marshawn Lattimore and the Saints. It is silly what he's done to that franchise, and he plays them twice a year. The Carolina Panthers, he doesn't like very much because they took DJ Moore over him. So he always cooks the Carolina Panthers twice a year. Okay. The thing about the receiving prop, though, at being 10, he's never hit 10. He's gone to 9 twice, and he's gone to 7.
No, he got 10 as a rookie. He got 10 as a rookie.
He got 10 as a rookie. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the thing about Calvin Ridley, he is a touchdown machine. And I don't know if you've ever looked this up, but he's got like a 7% touchdown rate, 8% touchdown rate for his entire career, not even just like for one season. I think this is a very doable number in 17 games for Ridley. What do you think?
Yeah, I like the touchdown number at 10. I mean, I think he's the number one guy, and he creates great separation down there in the red zone. I don't dislike any of these lines, man. I mean, I said Calvin Ridley, 1,300 yards. So seeing his receiving total at 1,350, that's doable. And he gets an extra game to do it. I'm on board with Ridley. I mean, he had 1,374 last year. So I actually like both of these props. Now, the interesting one is plus 1,000 for, NFL leader in receiving yards. Yeah, maybe. I think it's a good bet. I do think it's a good bet because if you are bullish on Matt Ryan tossing the ball around a ton with this new coaching staff, with Ridley being the number one, 1,374 or 9 last year in 15 games. I like it. I don't dislike anything right here. I mean, I think the lines are appropriately placed. I love the receiving total. That's the one I'm most bullish on is 10. I think he's a lock for, 10 to 12, maybe 13 touchdowns this season. Atlanta's going to be behind a lot. The defense stinks. So you have to take that into consideration as well. That they, although Arthur Smith may not want to throw the ball a ton, I don't think that defense is going to have them in position to sit back and just chill and run the ball and salt the clock away. So I'm all in on Calvin Ridley. I like 1,351. I like 10 touchdowns. We're gonna get like this sheet tracker and be able to throw this up and really put what we're putting money on because I kind of like this. I'm looking at some stuff right now to maybe jump in on some action on this. Where else we going, man?
Let's go to the unicorn, Kyle Pitts, at an 800 receiving yard number. I don't know what the record is. I believe it's Evan Ingram who has the record right now. I think it was somewhere like 900 yards. But 800 yards, I believe it even opened up lower, like 700, 750. FTN has him projected for 821. But I think this is a very doable number. What do you think about this for Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, this one to me is a no-brainer. It's over. And it has nothing to do with my affinity to Kyle Pitts as the prospect. It's the situation in which he finds himself. Had Julio Jones still been on this team, and you've got Julio, and you have Ridley and Pitts, I'd be a lot less bullish and excited about this number. But I think there's a real possibility that Kyle Pitts ends this season with 130 targets. You know what I mean? You're talking about Calvin Ridley last year, 143. I think it's a real possibility Kyle Pitts is 110, 120, 130 targets this year. The matchup problem that he presents with his size and speed. Dude, I'm watching him in these practices. This is full speed. This ain't like two-hand touch. At 6'6", 240, man, 250, he's moving around like a wide receiver. Like he legitimately looks like Calvin Johnson. Like maybe not as lean, but just how big and physically imposing he is. And the fact that he can not only play inline out of that H-back position or split out wide or in the slot, it's going to present serious problems for defensive coordinators. And if you are bold enough to shadow him with a safety, you've got a cornerback on him and you've got a safety over top, then you expose yourself to Calvin Ridley destroying you on the other side of the field. And whatever you want to think about Russell Gage and Olamide Zaccheaus, they've shown that they are serviceable replacement level wide receivers that can get open and catch passes. Not to mention they still have Hayden Hurst, who was a first round pick in his own right, who's a pretty solid tight end. So I just think it's damned if you do, damned if you don't with those pass catchers. I think it's Ridley and Kyle Pitts are both going to go over 1,000 yards this season. I think if there's any lock to be made, it's Ridley and Pitts going over 1,000 yards. I don't see that not happening, Jay. So I'm in on Kyle Pitts over 800 receiving yards. I feel really good about it, man.
All right, so then let's move ahead to the Carolina Panthers. Now we know they brought in Sam Darnold. They chose to not take a quarterback. I believe they were another team that could have got Justin Fields. They traded, I believe, a second-round pick, traded away Teddy Bridgewater, so now they have Sam Darnold. They were 5-11 last season. And our CEO, our boss, Kevin Adams, a little bit bullish on the Panthers, has them projected at 7 wins. Now, that's not the best number, so I pulled this 6.5 because I wanted to kind of see how you felt about this, right? 6.5 was their lowest number out there. The more common number was actually 7.5. Now you see, if you want to take the over on 6.5, you do have to lay a decent amount of juice at minus 160 almost. So it's really, are you really trying to middle that number where you can get an under 7.5 at maybe 115, 120? Closer to kind of what you're looking for if you want the under. But if you want to take the over, you can get that 6.5, and then you have them making the wild card. Yeah, right. No way. I think the Panthers can be worse than the Falcons. Personally, I would definitely take the under there. But then there's division. Again, 1,100. I don't see them winning the division. It's Tampa Bay's division to win or lose. There's no way they're going to lose that division. But I'm really curious how you feel about this number at 6.5, because we talked about Sam Darnold, I believe, yesterday, and all the interceptions and all that fun stuff. Because, we love Sam Darnold and seeing ghosts like crazy. But can he get right in this offense? And I want to point out that two things with Sam Darnold. 34% of his passes under duress, he completed 34% of his passes under duress. But Teddy Bridgewater last year in this offense got the ball out at the 4th fastest rate in the NFL. So is there going to be some correction there to where Sam Darnold's going to be put in a position where he's in this offense, he's running and gunning, he's throwing the ball quick, and he's more accurate because he's not under as much pressure as he normally is. So can you kind of see a world where Sam Darnold doesn't quite get all the way right? Because I know you said a leopard can't change his spots. He's still going to throw picks, but can he get right somewhat to where he's serviceable in this offense that I think Joe Brady is going to run exceptionally well?
Yeah, so I did a Google search, and I looked up what a leopard looks like, and I can confirm that a leopard does not have stripes. A leopard has spots. And I don't know what I said the other day. I used some expletives, but I do not believe a leopard will change his spots. And this leopard is Sam Darnold, turnover-prone machine. And, it's not just the Jets. It's not just Adam Gase. It's who Sam Darnold was even in college at USC. And I've talked about this before. Sam Darnold, before he committed to USC to play quarterback, there were a lot of schools that wanted him to play linebacker. They truly didn't know, what he was going to be at USC. In his final season before becoming the number 1 overall pick, 26 touchdowns, 13 picks. His first season starting as a redshirt freshman, he had 9 interceptions as well, with multiple fumbles all over the place. And then so far during his young NFL career, that's what we've seen, man. Like, Sam Darnold is just turnover prone, whether that's seeing ghost, whether that be the offensive line, whatever excuse you want to make. He's a turnover prone quarterback, man. Like Jameis Winston, turnover prone. These players just make bad decisions. Jay Cutler, bad decisions. Like, that's what separates the elite quarterbacks from, average to below average quarterbacks. And when you look at this Carolina Panthers offense, it's hard to be bearish with so many. I need to stop using these financial terms before Matt Kelly, the Podfather, gets on me. Bullish and bearish. This isn't finance. But it's hard for me to feel really good, to feel really bad when you've got Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. And I know it's not a popular name, but Dan Arnold, an athletic tight end. And, oh, by the way, they drafted this stud rookie wide receiver out of LSU, Terrace Marshall Jr. It's hard for me to be like, this team is not going to be successful because of the offense, right? You've got Joe Brady and Matt Rule, and, Sam Darnold is more athletic than Teddy Bridgewater. He's much better than, the quarterbacks that they've played in the past, like Will Grier and PJ Walker. Wild card plus 400, no thank you. They were 5-11 last year. Division, absolutely not. Over under 6.5. I would not feel confident taking the under here. And the over at minus 160 is just, you just got to put up too much to actually make some money, man. So I wouldn't At 6.5, I don't like that. If you can give me 7.5, I would probably, you know what I mean? Like 7.5, I'd feel way more confident in the under. And I know the line would change if those were the odds that we were going to get. But I don't feel they might be able to hit 7. And Kevin's got him at 7-10. I'm seeing my man Miguel in the chat. Sam Darnold meet Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles meet Sam. I mean, like we have to look at this stuff objectively, man. And I know a lot of times, for better or worse, fantasy kind of seeps into real team projections. And there's a big difference. You can have fantasy monsters on this Carolina team. DJ Moore can be outstanding for fantasy. We know Christian McCaffrey is going to do his thing in fantasy. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, excited about what Terrace Marshall could be for us this season in fantasy. But when you're talking like the team and how this team is going to perform, I'm not there with Sam Darnold at the helm. And how long of a leash is he going to have? If he goes out there and throws 2 picks week 1, another interception in week 3, he throws 2 more in week 4. You know what I mean? Like these coaches they don't give a damn about the fantasy, man. They wins and losses and those turnovers. Like that was the whole Bruce Arians thing with Jameis Winston. Like you're losing us games, man. You're losing us games with bad decisions. So looking at this team objectively, I know it's difficult to feel bad about this team because of all the weapons, but it's the signal caller. And I do not believe that Sam Darnold is the answer. I don't think he's going to be the future quarterback in Carolina. And I'm all for him proving me wrong and coming on here saying that I was wrong. Sam Darnold was awesome. All he needed was a change of scenery and some better weaponry around him. And now look at what you have on your hands. But right now, Carolina, and you said you think they're going to be worse than Atlanta. I mean, good grief. I mean, where would you take the under on that? I think you said you didn't like the odds that you get at 6.5, but at 7.5, I'm pretty sure you'd feel confident taking the under there.
Yeah, 7.5 is an easy smash for me. Like I said, Kevin having them at 7 gives me confidence. I do think there's a world where they're worse than Atlanta pretty easily. I think it just comes down to how good are the Saints, right? Are the Saints going to be a 10-win team with Jameis and Taysom, or Taysom and Jameis, or whatever it is? It's going to come down to how good the Saints are, and then I think the rest of the pieces will kind of just fall into place for the rest of the teams. Bucs should win 12-13 easily, maybe in 14 in this new 17-game schedule. Can the Saints win 10, or do these 3 teams fall in that 7-9 win range or 6-9 win range? We'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, I would be smashing the under on 7.5 really, really easily there.
Yeah. Yep. Who we got? Who else we looking at? I know we're going to talk about
with the big dog.
The big dog, Return of the Mac. Return of the Mac. Flavor in your ear. CMC. White Lightning. The Beast. Offensive Player of the Year odds plus one. What is that? Can I
1,200.
Plus 1,200. Plus 1,200. I was too in character and couldn't read. Plus 1,200 Offensive Player of the Year. Regular season rushing yards, 1,125.5. Regular season receiving yards, 675.5. And we were talking before show, like, dude, I know he's 1,000 and 1,000 player, right? But when I look at this, I'm like, damn, he's that good, man. Like, you know, to get you 1,100 plus rushing yards, 600 plus, like that's an ultimate weapon right there. I think this is kind of low, man. I think these are kind of low for Christian McCaffrey. Maybe his rushing yards are right on par, but 675 receiving, he's going to be a big part of this offense. I'm over on the receiving yards for sure. For damn sure, I'm over on the receiving yards. And for those of us in fantasy, we really like that because he's going to be catching a lot of passes. But the regular season rushing yards at 1,125, it's interesting because I think Saquon Barkley was like 1,150.
I think it's 1,150.
Right? 1,150. Yeah, give me CMC, the over on the rushing yards, the over on the receiving yards. I'm in on Christian McCaffrey, bro.
Yeah, and I think you made a great point. The receiving yards seem super light. I don't know why they're so low for Christian McCaffrey. He's easily the best pass catching back in football. You could say maybe Alvin Kamara is just as good, if not better, but pick one. You know, both of them can go over 1,000 yards receiving any season. They just need the targets. They just need the workload. Christian McCaffrey should hit that 675 pretty easily. FTN FTN has him projected for 716. Even I think that's pretty conservative. It just depends on how much they want to use him. Obviously, coming off of injury, we're not sure exactly what the plan is for him. They drafted Chuba Hubbard, I believe, in the 4th round out of Oklahoma State. So maybe that lightens his workload from a rushing perspective, but I don't think that lightens his workload from a receiving perspective, which is why I'm happy to take the receiving yards. The rushing yards in their hand, I'm not as bullish as you are. I think there is a world where Chuba can take some carries from Christian McCaffrey, lighten his workload kind of in quarters 2 and 3, where he's not as necessary depending on the game script. And as well, if we expect the Panthers to be behind, they're going to be passing the ball more, which lends himself to more Christian McCaffrey through the air opposed to on the ground. FTN has him projected for just over 1,000 yards, I believe. 1,080 yards.
10,000 yards? Yeah.
10,080 yards. Smash the over. Don't worry about it. So he's projected for a little bit less, but I actually am comfortable taking the under there. I could see a world where he goes over. And then the other thing we did talk about it off air, but we should tell the people, he's plus 800 for comeback player of the year. Like, that's pretty good odds. You know, you talk about a guy who could easily win offensive player of the year. I believe he did, 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
Yeah,
so,
2 years ago.
To think that he can't win comeback player of the year, maybe he's not the offensive player of the year, but he could win comeback player of the year. We talked about Dak being the favorite, Burrow at plus 600, but even at plus 800 to go after a guy who could easily put up 2K coming off injury. If you put up 2K yardage and let's say 15, 16, 17 touchdowns, I think all of that is in the realm of possibilities for Christian McCaffrey. So I think for me, it's a bet that if you want to kind of hedge on, maybe you go under on the yardages, but you go the offensive player of the year, the comeback player of the year, that could be a way to kind of stagger your bets to where if you are wrong on one of them, you then can come back and win that award potentially on the back end.
Yeah, and you know, as I'm looking at his career stats, right, he's only gone over 1,100 yards once in his career.
Yeah.
He's only done that once, and that was that magical 2019 season where he hit 1,000 and 1,000. And I remember that the end of that season, they were like force feeding him targets to get him to 1,000 receiving yards. Like I'm looking at that final game of the season in 2019. He only had 9 carries, but they had him like, here's his target total the last like 5 games that season. 10 targets, 15 targets, 10 targets, 12 targets, 12 targets. I mean, they were like, we are going to make sure you hit 1,000 and 1,000. I have no issue, no concern at 675.5. It's definitely the rushing yards though, right? Like looking at it, and he's never had over 300 carries, which that's not a problem for me as a Christian McCaffrey fan. A little less carries, the better. But I do think they brought Chuba Hubbard in for a reason, to spell him just a little bit, right? Take a little pressure off of CMC from carrying the workload, the full workload. So I'm kind of reversing course on the rushing yard total, but I'm not going to reverse course on the receiving yards. Comeback player of the year is interesting because we had a big, long debate that's Dak Prescott's award, and I still think it is. If Dak comes back, plays a full season, does what he should do with the Cowboys, it's a quarterback-driven award. I like that. I don't know how much injury versus like devastating injury versus, you know, CMC
regular injury.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, Saquon tore his ACL. Dak literally snapped his ankle. I don't, you know, Joe Burrow tore his ACL. I just don't know, like, if that factors in, like, man, he had to overcome way more to get back than a high ankle sprain that plagued CMC throughout the season. I don't know if that factors into the voters' decision-making and minds, but it seems like it does, right? It seems like it probably does. So while I like the odds for Christian McCaffrey for comeback player of the year, I still think it's a quarterback award. I still think it's Dak Prescott. And that's where I'm going to lean as far as that's concerned, is Dak winning that award. But I like the odds for Christian McCaffrey right there, man.
All right,
we got anybody else?
Yeah, we still got DJ Moore, right? And this is a guy who we have a lot of discussions about because, and I was thinking about this when I saw his line and when we talked about it more. He's almost having that kind of like, and I don't want to say he's the similar type player, but he's having that kind of like Julio Jones career arc where he can get all these yards in the world, but for some reason he just doesn't get in the end zone. Like, I forget what the number was, but it was like he has 3,000 career receiving yards and only 10 touchdowns. So you're telling me this guy averages 300 yards receiving for every touchdown he scores, which is just astronomically high, like just insanely high. So how does that kind of work? And that's why I didn't bother to pull up his touchdown number. But 1,200 receiving yards is a lot of yards. Like, that is a lot of yards from a quarterback that we don't love a whole lot. You know, like, we feel okay about DJ Moore. We think he's a great talent. But I don't know if he's an upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater. Like, Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, can they do the same things, different things? Is Sam Darnold better? We know that Sam Darnold has some rapport with Robbie Anderson, having played together on the New York Jets, but he doesn't really know DJ Moore the same way. Now, I think DJ Moore is good, and I think he's a talented player, but even with this projection from our experts at 1,221, I don't think I'm ready to take a side here as far as the over or under for DJ Moore's receiving yards.
Yeah, I'm not going to take a side right now. I would lean the under. I think DJ Moore is super talented, but I also think there's a reason why they got, Robbie Anderson was being fed the way he was last year. Christian McCaffrey's back. Terrace Marshall is here. So I'm with you, man. I don't like it right now, and we'll see how it plays out. I think we need more preseason. I want to see more practice. I want to see him play. So this is something that I probably wouldn't touch before the season. I don't like it, man. I mean, I know we got him projected at 1,221, but I love DJ Moore, but it's seeming like he's an 1,100, 1,200 yard kind of guy. I don't know, man. That's where I'm at. I don't like it. I just wouldn't touch it right now at minus 115.
Yeah, man, I'm kind of with you on that. So I wanted to kind of touch on one last guy because I didn't end up making a graphic for him. I wasn't sure if we'd have time. But Robbie Anderson, right? Robbie Anderson had an exceptional season last year. His line is only 900 yards, but at FTM we have him projected for 1,012 yards. And he's a guy, like I mentioned, has a rapport with Sam Darnold. So I think he's a guy, if you do like, a bit of juice, where you see potential for a massive season, he was kind of that, I don't want to say the Robert Woods type of role, but that's kind of what ended up happening. He ran a lot of crossing routes. He caught the ball short, had a fairly low ADOT, average depth of target for people who don't know. So I think Sam Darnold can do the same things. People talk about Terrace Marshall. He looked great in that first preseason game. I get it. But he's number 3. Realistically, he's number 4. Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, they're all ahead of him. So I'm not worried about him losing targets to Terrace Marshall, him losing targets to, Christian McCaffrey a little bit. But we've talked about that before and how Mike Davis and the other running backs combined for like 90-something targets. I still think there's a world where Robbie Anderson can easily hit 900. And I think that 1,000 is very much in play with Sam Darnold, a quarterback he's already familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. And Robbie goes deep. That's what Robbie does. He stretches the field. He goes deep. And Sam Darnold he YOLO Darnold. He's going to throw the ball deep. He has no fear. I think I saw something where somebody was talking about the rapport of Anderson and Darnold was a little bit overblown statistically. Yeah. And I forgot who it was, or I would credit him or her with that information. But we saw how they wanted to utilize Robbie in year one. So I don't see why on earth they would pull that away from him. And he was very successful in his role last year, for as tall and skinny as he is. What that dude can do is fly, get down the field. So you said 900 for Robbie Anderson?
Yeah, 900 and a half.
I'd feel more comfortable taking Robbie at over 900 yards than DJ Moore to hit 1,200. Like, that's just where I'm at with it right now. But, those are the Carolina Panthers futures, man. I think that was all we had for them, right?
Yeah, that was it.
Yep, cool. So, yeah, man, NFC South. We got 2 more teams. We'll touch on Tampa Bay and who is it? Tampa Bay and New Orleans.
New Orleans, that quarterback situation. Hopefully the weekend can kind of give us something to work with because we haven't seen anything. They're splitting reps, and I think Sean's going to wait until the year, even 4 or 5 weeks in, until we really know who that starting quarterback's going to be. It's just a shit show in New Orleans.
Yeah, we got that, and then we'll recap the New England-Philadelphia game, and then we'll preview Kansas City, Arizona, and Cincinnati, Washington. But we appreciate you waking up with us here on Bets TV. We will see you tomorrow. Y'all have a good day. We out. Peace.